We've all heard of the opposition leader Peter Dutton. However, you may not have heard of the other candidates in the area who are currently campaigning to take his seat in the electorate of Dickson in Brisbane. One of the main players in this fight is Ellie Smith. She's an independent candidate, homegrown in Queensland, who's currently trying to get young people's votes with her policies surrounding the environment, the cost of living crisis, and the public transport issues in their area. I went to one of her campaign events in North Brisbane at Hip Hop's Brewery to speak to Ellie to see how she is catering her campaign to young people to get them to vote independent this election.
We're here at Hip Hop's, which is right in the middle of the electorate in this industrial area of Brendale, and we've got 6 bands playing, and it's really great getting young people involved in the campaign. We know that there's about 9,000 young people voting for the first time in Dickson this time around, and I'm a new candidate, so it's kind of a perfect match to reach out to young people and tell them that they have an option to vote independent this time.
It's no secret that Peter Dutton left Queensland right before Cyclone Alfred hit in March, and whether or not you think that his reasons were reasonable, it sent a clear message to the communities that were in the line of fire for the storm. However, the community of Dickson felt the impact of him leaving significantly more than the rest of us did in southeast Queensland.
So he left the electorate just before the cyclone, and people really noticed that. We've noticed that he hasn't been investing in our local community and the work that needs to be done as a good local member. But when he left during a crisis like that, then that is really telling. We haven't felt well represented here locally, and lots of people are noticing that Peter Dutton isn't around to work for our local community. And so there was a lot of momentum, and I was asked to step up as a candidate, and so I made the decision just before Christmas. We've done a lot of surveys, we've spoken to a lot of people, and I've done a lot of door knocking since I launched the campaign, and the big things that are coming through are infrastructure, things like public transport and road transport as well, the housing crisis and the cost of living. They're really big for people across the board. Well, a lot of people can't access the 50-cent fares that we have here in Queensland because there's no public transport available to them, and people just have to get into their car to go to work. And so I'll be focused on policies that ensure that our local council gets more funding for active and public transport so that we can actually make the most of those fares. Peter Dutton takes an approach that's not focused on actual local outcomes, and I think our local community have really been sorely lacking a member who is focused on getting outcomes here.
With the cost of living crisis continuing to haunt people all over the country, especially young Australians, there's no surprise that this is a big factor when people are deciding which way they want to vote this election. And with people continuing to lose trust in the major parties, could the economic state of our country be a big reason as to why people choose to vote independent this election rather than Liberal or Labor?
Well, at the federal level, there's competition law that can change, and that's something that both the Labor Party and Liberal Party have looked at, and they've got policies around it. And as an independent, I could keep them to account. So make sure that they actually follow through on promises, but also speak out when they're not doing things that the experts are saying really should be done. And that's the difference between having a backbencher and having an independent. You can really have somebody who speaks out. We're a really marginal seat, and so it's quite divided. A lot of people don't like either of the major parties, and they've felt very let down by both of the parties. So I feel that by giving people an option to vote independent, they can have somebody who's going to be in their court, that I'll be going to Canberra telling Canberra what we want rather than coming back and trying to sell a party line to our community. And that's really refreshing for a lot of people, I think. There's a bipartisan approach to Medicare and increasing bulk billing, which I think is really important. It's been sorely lacking for a very long time. Things like mental health and just being able to get to a GP, but also all of those allied health. And so I'm really focused on how I can support either side of government if they have good policies for ensuring that more people have access to healthcare, but also here locally, making sure that we're getting the funding that we need for projects that will help people to access the medical system.
I know about you guys, but I know that my social media feed has been filled for months about Peter Dutton and his nuclear power plan if he gets in this election. However, after speaking to Ellie about how the community is reacting to all of this in North Brisbane, it really showed how much of an echo chamber social media really can be.
Not very many people raise nuclear with me because they just want lower power bills, and we know from so many people around the electorate putting solar on their roofs that's the cheapest way to bring down power bills, being able to have solar, and then if you can put a battery on as well and use that solar power in the evening when the power is more expensive. So that's the focus for my campaign, and for the people who I'm talking to makes a lot of sense. Nuclear is a bit of a distraction away from the trajectory that we're already on in the energy market, which is more renewables. And I was speaking to a solar operator today who just said it's a pipe dream, it's never going to happen. So that is, it's clear, even if the LNP get in, it will be a really big challenge to get a nuclear policy up. I think the power is in the hands of young people at this election, and people really need to engage and get involved in politics. And I can understand that it's been really a horrible place to get involved in, but my campaign is really positive. It's about a different future for our community, and really working hard to get things done. And so I hope that people get involved.
As we all know, the 2025 federal election is being held tomorrow, Saturday, May 3rd. And it is super important that if you're registered to vote, that you not only remember to vote, but that you make it count. The Australian Electoral Commission found that 90.4% of young people are registered to vote this year. I know that many of you are probably feeling fatigued about hearing about the election, but please do not let that stop you from taking it seriously. There are tons of super easy resources that you can use to make an informed vote. For example, there's the voting party for our WA audiences, and the ABC's Vote Compass is really good for everyone else around the country. As well as this, all over social media on Instagram and TikTok, different creators are putting out content about the different parties and how to vote on election day. As well as this, make sure to check out social media pages for your local independent candidates and your major parties in your area.